But you don't have to take my word for it or doTERRA's word for it, or there's some really important research.
Welcome to the Experience Wellness Podcast with hosts Rebecca Hintze and Laura Jacobs. Here you'll find the ultimate guide to living healthier, feeling happier, and thriving like never before.
Hello and welcome back to the Experience Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Hintze, here with Laura Jacobs. And oh, do we have a treat for you? I can't even wait to get started on this conversation. We have invited with us today Dr. Osguthorpe, who is the Chief Medical Officer at doTERRA. But not only that, he's a lot of other titles and things in the medical world, including a pediatric physician, pediatric infectious disease specialist. So much to talk about with Dr. Osguthorpe and the research that he's done, and the contribution that he's made to the essential oil industry is huge. I am so grateful for Dr. Osguthorpe, and I can't wait for you to hear some of the things that he's going to talk about today. We're specifically diving into the conversation around essential oil usage, purity, potency. It's going to be a fabulous conversation. So welcome everyone. And as always, welcome Laura and Dr. Osguthorpe. We're so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you, Becky. I am absolutely thrilled that we get to host this conversation with our dear Dr. O, as we lovingly call him. And yes, he's all the things that you mentioned. He comes from an incredible background in the world of medicine and continues to practice as both an active professor and a practicing physician with the University of Utah here in Utah, of course, and has specialized in not only pediatrics, but also infectious disease. One of my favorite things about Dr. O, and I have a lot, is that he's so personable and he's so friendly and so easy to converse with. And I find him to be a very well-rounded person as a father of 5 children. He's got a beautiful wife, Mary. He's soon to be the grandfather of yet another forthcoming grandchild. And he's brought so much value to the world of doTERRA, especially with his passion and his love for research. You've really helped us become so legitimized, right? Or legitimized and brought so much value in the proving sciences that help us really actually, I mean, sure, proving's great, but even just such a deeper understanding of what we really have in our hot hands. I'm so excited to jump in today's topic as Becky laid out for us. And, in the world, the reality of a wellness advocate is that we know we have something great. We don't all oftentimes know why. We just appreciate it that someone told us that it was great and we believed them and we tried it and it was great for us. But we do so often find ourselves running into conversations. I had a text come in just yesterday from one of my team members asking me about an online source. And hey, they were making some claims. They say their oils are just as good as doTERRA's. And so Becky and I are thrilled to have this very, shall we say, honest conversation with you in regards to essential oils and why this thing we call purity and quality and all the things actually matter. And I love your passion for this topic. So thank you for.
You guys are too kind. You're making me feel embarrassed. It's really a pleasure to be with both of you, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. It's going to be super fun, and I will try not to get, too passionate about some of this stuff.
I have to tell you, the moment I'm like, that's my guy, is it was the first convention you spoke at and you said, adulteration is criminal. I'm like, yes to that. Yes to that. So I love your passion. Bring it.
A little bit of an unscripted moment, but it is actually how I feel. There's a lot of problems in the essential oil industry that doTERRA has solved and that nobody else has. And I think we need to understand that if we are to differentiate ourselves from a growing group of companies trying to take advantage of what doTERRA has built, and by turning essential oils into solutions that people can use for their own health and wellness.
So, Dr. O, will you just cover with us what's going on out there in the world and what you're passionate about as a physician? Because I know one of the obstacles that you face is, I mean, let's be honest, so many are saying don't use essential oils. They're problematic. They can cause cancer. They're inconsistent. All of this is going on in the marketplace, and honestly for good reason, because there is adulteration in the field. And you're a doctor and you're saying yes, essential oils work, and I know it's because the product has to be different, and I would love for you to talk about that. Just lay it out for us as far as what it needs to look like to be able to use an essential oil to optimize wellness.
So, the most important thing, Rebecca, that we understand when we're talking about essential oils to help us with our health and wellness is we have to have essential oils that are pure and unadulterated. That is a huge problem in the industry because so much money is made by taking an oil, cutting it with other ingredients, low quality ingredients, or even manufacturing it out of whole cloth using just organic chemistry is such a common thing in the industry. There's a large secondary market where people can purchase essential oils and sell them to others in the hundreds of thousands of kilograms. They're just sold like that all over the world. And companies oftentimes use the secondary market's own quality metrics to tell them whether they purchased an oil that is good or not, and then they sell that to the customer. And that is a real problem. Adulteration has been a mountain that doTERRA has been climbing for all of these last 17 years and will continue to climb into the future. We're never done working on that. But when you seek for pure and natural quality, high quality essential oils, that has, when you successfully do that, that has consequences, and they're all good. What that means is you end up with an oil that not only is pure, but when you present that oil to your customer, it ends up being chemistry wise very consistent, meaning that the chemistry within the oil does not change very much because you are actually sourcing Mother Nature, not using the secondary market to fill your warehouse with widely varying levels of chemistry in the essential oil. So purity leads to consistent chemistry. That consistent chemistry then for the consumer leads to safe use, meaning if you know the potency of your oil is going to be the same time, you use the same dose every single time that worked, and you don't have toxic side effects because you know the dose to use. And then when you've got all that pure chemistry that is consistent batch to batch and year to year, and you know that it's safe, it allows you to test for efficacy. So researchers like myself can now test for efficacy with essential oils, especially with doTERRAs. There have been hundreds of thousands of articles in vitro models and in vivo models where essential oils have been tested. And one of the reasons why medicine has not been as accepting of that research as we would like is because that research is wildly inconclusive, meaning some articles show that the essential oil works beautifully. And in another trial that's set up exactly the same way, it shows that it doesn't work. And that's because, in my understanding, the oils that were used were so wildly inconsistent or impure that they were comparing apples to oranges. Or maybe not apples to oranges. They were comparing apples to elephants. It was very, very different, right? They weren't doing the same experiment. But the people that read the research don't know that. They don't know that the industry has these huge problems in it. And so, because of that, they read this research that shows very differing outcomes depending on trial, and they go, well, it's not time for me to start using essential oils. But if they had an essential oil that was not only pure and natural, but was consistent in its chemistry, then you could do that trial and repeat it every other time and get the same result. But until you have a product that is consistent, you can't get reproducible results. And that's one of the main problems in the essential oil industry today is the just tidal wave of crap that is sold as a pure essential oil that is not. And it gets tested by people who want to see if they work because they seem to maybe there's something there. There's so much published on them. And then you get these wildly different results. It drives me absolutely crazy, actually.
So we can presume then that because of what we believe to be true about doTERRA, that doTERRA has solved this consistency issue. You've taught us that from stage, and you even laid out a new term for us a few years ago of pharmaceutical grade, meaning it's not like an official term, but it's a meaningful term that doTERRA has achieved such a small margin of variance when it comes to the consistency of an oil that then now as a mom, as a consumer, I can come to depend on the fact that the chemistry of the oil that I'm using is so consistent that I can expect the same dosing to work bottle after bottle after bottle for myself or my family members, as well as you then, who I know, again, your passion so much for research, you can count on then the oil also performing in a consistent way, which allows you then to produce viable research that can then offer us viable claims.
Correct. The hallmark of good science is reproducible results. And really, the problem in the essential oil industry is that the essential oils are so widely variable that you get widely variable results. Not at doTERRA. When we do research at doTERRA, we're doing them on very, very consistent chemistry. So when we talk about pharmaceutical grade oils, what I mean by that, it's not a term that is medical in any way, but what I'm saying is that the variation in the percent of a particular compound within an essential oil varies so little that you can rely on the same drop to deliver the same effect every time. And that is the hallmark of what is good science. If you don't have a product that can be that consistent, then you don't know how to use it. So we are actually trying to help our wellness advocates to understand that the pursuit of purity is very important, but you've got to have high quality. And part of quality is consistent chemistry. You have to have that reliability of every drop containing the same power every time you use it. And we've done for all of our singles, all of the consistency work. And we are exceeding pharmaceutical standards for quality regarding our essential oils, meaning if you take lavender and linalool, or lemon and limonene, or frankincense and alpha pinene and limonene as well, for that matter. But if you take these big oils, peppermint and menthol, or even small ones like oregano and carvacrol, or cinnamaldehyde in cinnamon bark, we have, by pursuing purity so doggedly, we have created very consistent chemistry. In the pharmaceutical world, if you market a drug as having 100 milligrams of a drug in a pill, they are allowed 5% on either side of that in every tablet. For linalool and lavender, we're 1.1% different batch to batch, year to year. That kind of consistency is unheard of in the essential oil industry. It was, in fact, thought to be impossible up until our team found out that we could have Mother Nature be that consistent by managing our supply chains correctly, by becoming as large as we were, by having fields of lavender in multiple different parts of the world and bringing them all together. We can reduce variation at the chemistry level so that we can deliver this sort of high quality, consistent oil to the marketplace. That is what makes us different. And if our wellness advocates understand, then they won't be texting you, Laura, and saying, hey, I've heard this online retailer sells oils for cheap. Well, yeah, they sell them for cheap because they're not selling lavender. They're selling hoe wood oil that is masquerading as lavender. And that is really cheap way to put something in a bottle that smells like lavender, but will not have the same biological effects of lavender. Though hoe wood oil has linalool in it, it does not have the racemic mixture. Anyhow, it's probably more than we want to go into. But the linalool comes in two different varieties, left-handed and right-handed, or DNL. And lavender makes a very specific, it's enzymatic in the way that it creates its linalool. And that specific ratio of D to L is what makes lavender lavender. Just because you have linalool doesn't mean you have the right racemic mixture of linalool. So don't don't really truthfully, after having done everything that we've done in the lab looking at essential oil, the only company that delivers consistent oils to the marketplace is doTERRA. The only company who I believe ethically could or should be doing efficacy research is doTERRA. It really isn't ethical to be giving essential oils to human beings if you cannot replicate the product that you're giving to human beings. We can.
I I think that you've brought up a huge thing, because we trust as citizens that there are regulatory commissions or some kind of international standard that's going to protect us in these situations, and that somebody's watching, that there's a parent in charge, so to speak. And there is the ISO that should be looking out for us. And in that case, I know you have some opinions about it, so I would love for you to
Yeah,
share.
so the International Standard Organization, or ISO, is the body that basically tells the industry what a quality lavender should look like. The problem with ISO is that it is mostly oriented toward industry rather than toward consumer, meaning that it's looking out for the interests of the industry rather than the end user of the oil. So if the market is mostly secondary, meaning manufacturers who sell to customers mostly go to the secondary market to buy their lavender and sell it to customers, then the standards that are employed to measure quality have to kind of fit within that framework. And so the ISO has set a standard example for lavender that says that linalool can vary between 20 and 40% and be called a high quality lavender. Think about that for a second. In one drop of oil, 20% of it could be linalool or 40% of it could be linalool. You could have twice as much linalool in one drop as in another drop, and it would still be called a high quality lavender. That's very friendly to industry, not very friendly to the consumer who's trying to use these for a health and wellness solution.
Can I
You
ask a
could
question?
underdose or overdose.
Can I just ask a question in this moment? What if it's a synthetic linalool? Is it still considered, like, how does that work? Like, are we just talking pure linalool? It's whole wood, it's lavender. What about synthetic? How does it play
Yeah,
into this
no,
scenario?
they don't care. ISO doesn't care about that. Well, they care, but they don't distinguish in its labeling of a high quality lavender. If it meets the requirements that are written down in ISO, then it gets labeled as a pure lavender. And that's a real problem that industry folks in the know have quote unquote been driving trucks through for generations. And you get what you pay for in life, and that certainly is applicable to essential oils. You can go ahead and buy a Rolex in Times Square off the street. It might look like one, but it isn't one. So if you are trying to use lavender to help you get a restful night's sleep, be very careful what you use, because the industry is full. Up to 80% in some of our surveys have found that 80% of essential oils are adulterated on the marketplace in significant ways. And boy, oh boy, that's why I said in year one that I thought it was criminal. It's just,
Because it is.
why are we okay with this? Why is everybody like, well, geez, I'm fine, whatever. I'll just buy lavender from Target or from somewhere else. Why are we okay with that? Why is that okay? People need to figure out that, if what you're using essential oils for is fragrance, and I'm not using the term aroma. Fragrance to me is a bad term. Fragrance implies to me synthetic adulteration and cheap. Fragrance is anything you can do to make something smell like something good or something natural. But when we talk about true, pure, and natural essential oils, they are the opposite of fragrance or the evil fragrance industry. We do not participate in the fragrance industry. We are a health and wellness company powered by essential oils. And those essential oils we source, and we go to great lengths all over the world to make sure that what we bring to the marketplace is pure and natural, consistent in its chemistry, safe and efficacious. And that really is what distinguishes us from everyone else. But you don't have to take my word for it or doTERRA's word for it. Or there's some really important research. A series of articles has been published by the University of Mississippi School of Pharmacy, and within that School of Pharmacy is a place called the National Center for Natural Product Research, or NCNPR. Ikhlas Khan is its director, and he's a world-renowned researcher, pharmacologist, pharmacognosist actually, and the research that has been shown about essential oils has basically validated and shown what we've been talking about today, that there is tons of adulteration in the industry, and that doTERRA is essentially the gold standard against which the rest of the world is measured. And these articles will continue to be published over the years. We've published one recently on copaiba, peppermint, and lavender, and there's cinnamon is coming. There's a whole series of articles that are coming out in conjunction with NCNPR that will be very useful. And I think that's really important as we think about how essential oils can be incorporated into our daily health and wellness routines.
And we are so grateful because in this climate across the world and across industries, there's this problem where we're assuming someone's in charge and watching out for us. And in fact, when we dive in and we're more self reliant with our healthcare, we start to realize everywhere we look, no one really is solely watching out for what's in the best and highest good of our own health and wellness. And it does leave us to have to do our own investigation and to discover what companies are and what products are out on the marketplace that are actually going to support us with our health. And we are so grateful for the work that you're doing for doTERRA and also as a physician. And I want to ask, because there are a lot of medical experts out in the field who roll their eyes at essential oils, who wonder, maybe even ask you, I don't know, why would you be involved in doTERRA? Why are you here as such a well-known and well-respected doctor? And you are. And for our viewing, listening audience, you need to know that about Dr. O. You're hearing from not only an expert, but a highly respected physician, infectious disease pediatric doctor. Why are you here? Why is doTERRA important to you? Why is all of this important to you?
Because I believe that our healthcare system should be more focused on prevention than it currently is. And as I have grown up in our episodic sick care system, if that's what we will call it, I came to realize that there is so much more that we can be in charge of from our own health. And we are really, we spend most of our lives waiting to get sick rather than trying to keep from getting sick. And the hospital industry is kept alive by people who need total knee replacements, heart catheterizations, and therapies that lifestyle drives. And it's lifestyle that needs to change. And we should be anxiously engaged as a society. I think it's probably one of the most pressing problems we have as a society, and it will become so much more apparent as we age. Our healthcare system is really driven to take care of disease rather than to prevent it. And I would much rather be on the other side of that, preventing disease, rather than focusing my life on waiting for disease to happen. I got to tell you, I really enjoy my work in hospitals. I love taking care of kids in ICU settings with severe infections. I love helping parents to understand what's happening. I love that environment, but I would much prefer preventing that disease in the first place. And the older I've gotten and the more experienced I've become in the healthcare field, the more convinced I am that there needs to be a little bit of a revolution. We need to be marching in the streets for prevention rather than waiting for disease. And it's why I got up this morning and went running. It's why a lot of doTERRA's wellness advocates are great at this. And I realized early on that if I could come to doTERRA with medical expertise and knowledge, research that could be leveraged by wellness advocates, that I could in turn affect many more people than the one person at the bedside through all of you. And so I am at doTERRA because of the millions of wellness advocates around the world who are helping people to become more healthy by changing lifestyle and taking charge of their own health rather than waiting for disease to happen. I so that's probably a part of the answer. There's many more pieces to that, but that's part of it, Rebecca. And thank you for asking.
So, to maybe wrap up this conversation, I feel like a great way to bring together every wonderful thing you've, and again, thank you. Thank you for just the authenticity of heart and mind that you bring. It's just so refreshing. And I almost leapt out of my seat and declared hallelujah while you're speaking, but I tried to constrain myself. Yeah, movement indeed. So it's let's be like ethereal for a second, right? We have this timeline, and here you are in what would be maybe present time for someone's life, sitting by their bedside, coaching a parent about a child. And if you had the opportunity to go back in time and coach that family sooner, with just simply because our topic today has been primarily centered around essential oils, and you could coach them on how do I insert the power of essential oils in my everyday life so that I don't end up this person? What are the daily practices that a person would engage in? And, obviously we have those, what I like to call fire extinguisher moments where I'm pulling an oil off a top shelf and I'm putting out a fire with it because life had its little urgencies. But there's also things we can be doing. You talk about prevention. I talk about intention. If you want well-being, live life with intention, like intentionally go running, intentionally use lavender every day. What would be some intentional things you could see kind of in a more universal way that individuals and families could be, how could they insert the oils much earlier in their timeline so that we could lessen the number of experiences like you get to do by the bedside?
Yeah. So, probably one of the first things I would answer that question to, Laura, would be work on sleep. Sleep is so foundational to our health. And in modern society, sleep gets pretty much backburnered. There isn't a hand that I've talked to that doesn't go up when I ask the question, who here would like more and better sleep? Pretty much everybody raises their hand all the time. Our devices and our stressful lifestyle and our non-physical lifestyle, the fact that we sit and do podcasts all day, the fact it keeps us from getting the type of circadian rhythms that our bodies need to be cued into sleep so that every organ system in our body can regenerate and restore while we sleep. Um, Lavender and linalool, Serenity as a system, is an incredibly powerful foundational product that will allow sleep to improve. The other thing that I think is an important essential oil to pull off the shelf on a regular day is a limonene containing product. So I use wild orange or lemon or grapefruit every day in the water that I drink. And that is because limonene has been shown over and over and over again to have multiple protective benefits that are both cardiac as well as alertness related. So lipid related as well. So I would start with those two and in terms of essential oils. And then I'd say most of our lifestyle, especially in North America or in cultures that have copied North America's bad habits, I would say that a very important part of our daily regimen should be a multivitamin that contains appropriate doses of vitamins that are bioavailable and manipulated, like methylated if you're B vitamins, and natural sources of vitamins whenever possible, so that our systems, our bodies, and our organs and cells get the correct cofactors that they need to do their functions appropriately. Our microbiomes, because of our food systems, our industrial food systems, are severely limited than they were in years past. And a high quality microbiome product is really, really important. PB Restore, in my opinion, is the best microbiome product on the market today. And it contains both pre, post biotics and and the microbiome products in terms of CFUs that everyone needs in different strains to support our microbiome. And then lastly, I would say, especially at certain ages, um, a fish oil product like E Omega can be extremely helpful. There's good data around E Omega that it can, and there's qualified FDA health claims that can be made with E Omega around heart disease and stroke and cardiac support that are really powerful. And most of us and by us, I don't mean our doTERRA wellness advocate community, but I mean most of the United States are not doing those things. They're just not. They think about it. If you look at the research, they're like, yeah, everybody thinks a microbiome product's important, but very few people take one every day. And that's how wellness advocates can help their friends, neighbors, and everyone they meet to be healthier and live their healthiest life possible, is by doing some things foundationally that have been proven to improve our health, and getting up off the chair and going for a walk every day and connecting with those human beings that are most important to you in meaningful ways decreases stress and anxiety beautifully. Um, Coupling that with a diet that minimizes to as high a level as possible processed foods, especially ultra processed foods, and incorporates more whole foods into it. These kinds of things will pay great dividends down the road. And the earlier we make them, the more benefit we get.
You know, I have to say, by small and simple things, great things are brought to pass. We all know that the catchphrase. There's so much truth in that. And my own health has been changed because of doTERRA and the small and simple instructions that I've received for years from the company that aren't just about product usage, but about lifestyle that you mentioned earlier. And then, of course, I've habit stacked the product usage for years, and I've seen remarkable effects in my family from applying all of these principles. And also, I love that you brought up at the end the daily use of essential oils and the impact that that has. It is the consistent use of essential oils that brings a powerful impact to our health, along with all of these other incredible products doTERRA has produced, and along with the lifestyle habits. So I am so grateful again, Dr. O, for your time, for your research, for your interest in overall well-being. I know I have been so benefited from the instruction of my dear bestie for life, Laura Jacobs, who intervened years ago in my life to help me on this path. And together we have made changes with our family, and we're now influencing a new generation of grandchildren. All three of us are taking this message of health and wellness to our own family, which has a huge generational impact. I feel like it's going to take a while to change the world, but I think we're up for the task. And again, it's going to be by small and simple means. We make these changes ourselves, we apply these habits for ourselves, and then we share them with others, and we can really make worldwide change. And I'm grateful for each of you for the influence that you've had in my life to help me and my family move forward in this way. To our listener, to our viewer at home, we encourage you to do the same. Take care of yourself. Put that oxygen mask on yourself first. Start using essential oils regularly. Get those habits in place. take on the product protocols that Dr. O has talked about today. Get the sleep you need. Try these different products and see how they impact your life. And I don't know, Laura, do you have any last tips for our listening audience of what you wish they would all do?
Thank you, Becky. I love your thoughts and your feelings, and I'm right here with you. What a journey we've been on together, and the evolution for ourselves, our children, and now our grandchildren has been nothing short of precious. I can't leave this moment without recapping the experience we've just had. We're talking about Russell Osguthorpe, who is one of the top physicians at the University of Utah, which is one of the greatest at the primary children's hospital, which is truly the best pediatric hospital in the world. And this man is the man to be compared to, right? This is a gentleman who was actually offered a position over the new primary children's hospital that was put just down the road, and he chose doTERRA instead. And we just had a moment of sitting, standing, whatever the case may be, with you, Dr. O, at the bedside of if a kid's at primary children's with an infectious disease, I would imagine that's not a light case. You don't go to primary children's for the everyday stuff. You go there when it's severe. And we had the opportunity to stand there with you with the love that you have by that bedside to coach that family and to help them understand what are you dealing with and how are we going to work our way through this. And here's how this modern medicine facility can meet you there. And this is what we have to offer you. But do we really comprehend the commitment that you have to wellness, to be able to step back with us all at doTERRA, that what we have with your leadership as our chief medical officer is that you would rather meet us somewhere else. You would rather meet us at a point of prevention and intention and coach us to come from this different space. And I think it speaks volume about your character and your experience. And imagine the time that you've spent at the bedsides of those, and not everybody survives. My own grandson was in that very hospital just shy of a year ago, and it feels very personal to me today to have the opportunity to be here with you and to compare for ourselves the dynamics of choice that we have. And so I take very seriously the invitation to choose wellness and to choose the daily habits that you've encouraged. And it's something I've made my life choice for the last 30 years, especially consciously, right? That's when I woke up to the fact that I had conscious choices and not only decided to pursue them for myself, but to reach anybody within the sound of my voice, to encourage them to choose the same. Because as you well know, as we well know by our experience with doTERRA and as individuals, that it's the better place to be. And that by making a few and simple choices, as you've indicated, Becky, right? With like, we've got our new VMG and it's for the whole family, right? We can share packets, we can spread them around, we can have a green drink party every morning. We've got our new E Omega, we've got our incredible, as you said, like, let me stand next door to you as a witness, having sold some form of a probiotic for literally upwards of 30 years in some way, shape, or form. There is nothing like PB Restore. And I know my products well, I know my labels well, and there is nothing that holds a candle to that product. It's outstanding. And then with a few simple tools, with a few simple commitments and a steadiness to that, a consistency to that, we can literally radically alter our lives, along with the choices to move our bodies, get enough sleep, choose out of ultra processed, let alone processed foods, and make new choices. We get to meet Dr. O on either side, right? We get to have, and so thank you for being the kind of physician that understands that there's a time and place for different types of care. And thanks for caring enough to be here with us. You had an incredible career choice. You could have chosen to lead, again, one of the top pediatric hospitals in the world and surely make a difference there. But the fact that you understand that this is where the real difference occurs, and you've partnered with us and locked in arms with us and helping us prove the value of not only the power of essential oils, but pure essential oils, and really helping us to understand what we have and to put them, I'll never forget your conversation from stage. It was about MetaPower. And you kind of got in your doctor moment. You're like, you got to take this stuff consistently, right? It's like, this isn't an inconsistent habit. If you want to achieve a different level of health and wellness, you choose, again, not only simple, steady, but consistent. Like, this is something we get to do consistently. It's a choice, and we don't have to meet you at Primary Children's. We can meet you right here in doTERRA. So thank you. It means so much to me that you're here.
And thank you, our viewer listener, for even caring. If you've gotten to the end of this podcast, you care about your health and your wellness and your family and those around you. And we hope that you've appreciated, as we have, the words of Dr. O, and we encourage you to be discerning of the products that you use, to use your doTERRA products regularly, and to let those small and simple steps have meaningful impact in your life. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on our Experience Wellness podcast. Take care. Bye-bye.